HomeCare.com. I'm Paul Thomas.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. It is Friday, smack dab middle of June. It is June the 14th, 2019, and we're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Money Radio Studios. It's a beautiful, warm day today, pushing close to 100 degrees, and that's probably about what it should be this time of year. If you are just tuning in for the first time, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And how do I do this? I bring extraordinary guests to the show. And today is no different. I've got a guest. This guest is somebody I've known for almost the entire 25 years I've lived here. I would like to welcome to the show Burt Rosenblatt. And he is an attorney with Eli, Bettini, Ullman, Rosenblatt, and Ozer. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good. It's so cool having you here on the show. We've known each other 25 years.
I know. It seems like just yesterday that we met, and time has just flown by.
And we look exactly the same.
Not a day younger.
There you go. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's funny because both of us moved here from the left coast, from California, and you beat me over here by about a year or two, and maybe three.
I had a little push to get over here.
Yeah.
If you remember the famous Rodney King riots, that day was a very, very ugly day for me, Bob.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is a radio show, and I love painting pictures. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened that day? And was that truly the impetus for you to leave L.A.?
It didn't take anything more than that. I was living in L.A., working across the street from the La Brea Tar Pits. The L.A. County Art Museum is over there. I went out for a hamburger to a little dive down the street. Done it many times.
Probably great burgers, too.
Oh, the best. The dives are always the best.
They are.
And walked down the street, maybe half a mile from my office. The Wilshire Boulevard was bustling with cars, busy, beautiful sunny day. I walked in, got my hamburger. I walked out, and there was nobody on the street. And the Rod Serling Twilight Zone music played in my head because I couldn't figure out why Wilshire Boulevard was empty. Well, it became very clear very quickly why it was so empty as I started walking back to my office. Bullets were flying. There were carloads of young kids driving down Wilshire Boulevard, shooting out windows, throwing Molotov cocktails, and I was caught in kind of the thick of all of it.
Wow.
So I ran toward my building where I'd worked.
You didn't run and grab cover?
Well, I tried. The closest place was a building across the street, and I kind of hid behind a pillar, hoped I had passed the people had passed by. And another gentleman and I were just both crouched behind this pillar, hoping we would save our lives. We thought we had an opening, started to run. And what you remember about Los Angeles, they're very, very funny about jaywalking. Yeah. And the two of us got to the corner, and there was a "Don't Walk" sign, and we both froze instantly, looked at each other, and said, "Are you kidding me?" And then we both ran. And they shut the building down. They shut Wilshire Boulevard down, and it was just a nightmare.
How shortly after did you move?
We moved within months.
Wow.
Within months.
And my impetus to come here truly was the Northridge quake.
Yes.
That scared the bejeebies out of me, but more so Susie. And she's just like, we got to get out of here.
Well, it's funny. When we came to visit Arizona, and for those of you out there who are Arizona residents, you'll appreciate this. We went to a little sports bar for dinner when we first came. And as we were walking into the restaurant, somebody opened the door for us and said, "Go ahead." And my wife and I looked at each other and said, "This doesn't happen in Los Angeles. Everyone here is so nice."
Right.
And that was really the reason we moved here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
It's a great place to live.
People are really nice. And for the life of me, this is certainly a shout-out to two of my daughters that just graduated in May. I've talked about them here on the show. One just graduated with her master's in speech pathology and the other one with her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, they want to go to L.A.
Yes, they all do. My kids as well. They're all
They want to go to L.A. and we left that area. Go figure.
Well, they'll
figure it out.
Lesson. They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out and they'll come on back.
They'll come home.
So I want to tell our listening audience why I invited you here to the show. And I invited you, obviously, we're friends, and you talked about the story about how you got here, but you are a civil litigation, or you're within a civil litigation law firm, and you practice personal injury.
I do. We focus our practice on serious, more often than not catastrophic type injuries, although we do accept many other different types of claims. Bob, I got in this business to help people. Honestly, that was really what prompted me to go into the law. My father, unfortunately, passed away when I was 18 years old, very young, and I was on my own. And I wanted to be a doctor, frankly, and didn't know if I could make it through time-wise, all the way through medical school. So I decided on law school, and then I got into a field that utilizes quite a bit of medicine. So I'm having a great time, and I enjoy it. But really, I'm doing it to help people, Bob. That's really why.
And you talk about medicine. I mean, a lot of the work you're doing is around healthcare. It's around, clients that you're serving that have serious medical issues.
Yeah, and we have to help them not only with finding the appropriate physicians, the appropriate specialists, but often, as you know, we need people to have them be helped inside their home. And so we have from time to time cross paths that way as well.
Yeah, and I certainly have crossed paths with you by sending people your way that have had misfortunes. And unfortunately, you happen to hear some of the most horrible stories.
Yeah, Bob, it's unbelievable.
It's not one of those days when you come home and you say, wow, I had such a great day. I mean, you hear these god-awful stories.
Unbelievable. I always say, people ask me, over the course of my life, how are things? How's work? And I have kind of a stock funny phrase. I say, there's no shortage of people doing stupid things to each other. So I have a lot of job security for that reason.
Right.
We have over the years, Bob, I have seen such crazy things and crazy cases, and I've had stories that just we can probably get into in a few minutes, but just an amazing amount of things that people do to each other.
I want to take this moment because it is June the 14th. It's Flag Day, so we have a lot to be proud of, to be patriots and live in this great country. And for many of you that travel outside this country, when you come back here, you really realize how great we have it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of tension and a lot of bickering back and forth. But we have it pretty good here in the United States, and our flag is awesome. And I want to recognize patriotism. And today is Flag Day. The other thing I want to recognize is it's actually World Elder Abuse Day tomorrow. And World Elder Abuse, you talk about horrible things happening. Our older adult populations, bad things are happening to these incredible people that have built our society, the economies that we have, the great things that we have that we call America. And, approximately 1 in 6 older adults experience some type of abuse. And we have to do a little bit better job of recognizing it and getting help. And there are great resources to get those help. I mean, obviously, you can contact the Adult Protective Care Services, or you can contact the Attorney General's office, or certainly if something really bad has happened, contact your local police law enforcement office or the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. But, it's that old saying, if you see something, say something.
Well, we get a lot of calls, Bob, of people who, especially with the elderly, who have been either abused inside of a facility, which is a very, very sad thing to see, or maybe it's not quote-unquote abuse, but it's neglect. And we see a lot of people will call with issues about nursing facilities, bed sore problems, not being cared for correctly. And there are things that we tell those families of how to, number one, prevent that to the best of their ability in the future, and number two, how to do something about it. When my kids were all born, it's funny, I never thought about it. I was very young at the time, obviously, hadn't had the years of experience as a lawyer that I have now. But I did the same things then that I guide my clients to do now. I never left my kids alone. In other words, we're in the hospital. The babies were born. I watched them constantly.
Sure.
And so the advice I give to people who have loved ones in nursing facilities, go. You've got to go see them. Be sure to ask what's being done. Be sure to be present. Be around. That will stop a lot of problems, first and foremost.
Well, the statistics are just incredibly daunting, Burt. I mean, you look at the population 80 and older. The population between 2016 and 2030 is going to double in our country. The highest growth demographic right now is the 90 plus. So unfortunately, we got more older people out there. We just need to be mindful of them. Keep an eye on them. And if you see something, certainly say something.
When we come back from the break, Bob, I'm going to explain some things that will help some people protect themselves and avoid the stress of things that they could fix before their problems even occur.
I'd love that. And what a great tune to go out on our first segment. Can you believe we're down one segment?
That's amazing.
We got 3 more segments to have fun.
We will.
Hey, stick around and listen to Health Futures. I got Burt Rosenblatt here in the studio from Eli, Bettini, Ullman, and Rosenblatt and Ozer. We'll be right back.
Feel this way, my girl, my girl, my girl.
Hi, I'm certified financial planner Nancy Fleming, and did you know a fellow woman named Elizabeth Maggie created the Landlord's Game to help her friends feel the unfairness of land grabbing while having fun? Like most women, we have a more encompassing attitude about our world. We approach our financial well-being as a means to an end. We ask more questions. We match our investment choices closely with our goals. That's how I do it. If that's how you do it, then accept this invitation for my complimentary retirement roadmap by calling 480-632-8770. Elizabeth's game was changed to Monopoly. Keep your game true by calling me, Nancy Fleming, at 480-632-8770 or text the word RETIRE to 33222. That's the word RETIRE to 33222.
Fleming Financial Services, Inc. is a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Arizona and in other jurisdictions where exempt registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training.
Have you ever heard the phrase, he or she who hesitates is lost? Never has it been more relevant than in today's real estate market. Hi, Joe Capitano here, Senior Vice President of Homeowners Financial Group. Rates are rising fast. Home prices in some areas are still rising and stalling in others. If you need to purchase a home, do it now. If you need to sell a home, do it now. If you need equity out of your home, do it now. I've been in this market over 35 years, so I've been through this a time or two, and it can be painful. I've got the experience to see you through it and find ways to soften the effect of those rate hikes. Call me. Let's get a strategy. Joe Capitano, 480-305-8545, 480-305-8545, or just go to joeloans.com. Banker number 0906222, and MLS number 98826, Equal Housing Lender. Joe Capitano, 480-305-8545.
At Walgreens, you can get expert diabetes advice 24/7. Find all major brands of testing supplies and download tools to help you stay on track. Talk to your Walgreens pharmacist today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We're on segment number 2. If you missed the first one, go out to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the third button across the top. You'll see it says Media. Third button down is Radio Show, and you'll catch about 300 of them we've been bringing to you for the last 6 years. If you're just tuning in, I've got Burt Rosenblatt here in the studio. He's with Eli, Bettini, Ullman, Rosenblatt, and Ozer. They are a civil litigation law firm. Burt's specialty is in personal injury law, and Burt, if you heard our first segment, is a longtime friend of mine. And we talked a little bit about both of our experiences in Los Angeles and why we came over here to the great state of Arizona. But we concluded our first segment talking about that tomorrow is World Elder Abuse Day. And the fact that, it is continuing to grow and our population's continuing to grow is something that we all need to be aware of, and we need to look for the signs. And you are no stranger to experiencing elder abuse. And you probably have had some cases along that lines.
No question, Bob. It's a very sad comment, but the elderly sometimes get forgotten. They get forgotten sometimes, unfortunately, by their own family. They get forgotten by the healthcare providers who are supposed to be helping them. And we often get calls of very catastrophic things that could have easily been prevented by people doing their job or family members, frankly, being more involved.
And I just want to throw out, I mean, everyone knows that horrible case that happened here. And I know that people are listening into this show from really all over the world because we're live on the Internet at Hacienda Healthcare.
Very sad situation.
That may not have been elder abuse, but that's abuse in the healthcare system. That is sad.
And I was just listening last night. This poor woman, they do not believe this was the first time it happened to her, that there were signs that she had been sexually active in the past while at their facility, which obviously should not be occurring.
Right.
And they believe there's evidence, in fact, that she had given birth to another child. And so they're investigating that as well from a news outlet I saw last night.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's really sad. And there are laws designed to protect elderly, from people from being abused as elderly people, and there are vulnerable adult statutes as well, and so she would fall underneath that category. You don't have to be elderly to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
And so there are statutes that will protect her and provide her other rights and remedies because of her situation being vulnerable. Speaking of being vulnerable, Bob, it's interesting because you don't have to be sick to be vulnerable to having problems occur and having issues in your life that could be avoided. One of the things I know and see in my everyday job are people, and often it is the elderly, who don't understand their auto insurance needs, or they have somebody who is not providing them with the best advice in terms of a broker. And so one of the things I want to provide today to the residents of Arizona and anyone else who's listening to this show is you got to protect yourself. You have to think about what your assets are. You should protect yourself in terms of coverages that make sense for you. But there are coverages out there that not everybody thinks about. So there's coverage that you get called liability insurance, and that's what happens when you're at fault and you harm someone. And people always think to insure themselves for very high limits when that occurs. But there are other insurance needs that you would have, including uninsured and underinsured. And
explain those, because I've heard those terminologies and I own them, but I don't quite really understand that, and I'm sure our listening audience doesn't as well.
Sure. So uninsured coverage is coverage you buy to protect yourself from someone else who causes harm to you that does not have any insurance. Underinsured coverage is very similar to that, but it protects you from those who harm you through the use of an automobile when they don't have enough insurance to cover the harm they've caused. So people sometimes they'll buy themselves $100,000 of liability insurance to protect their own assets when they are at fault and they cause harm to another. But they don't think to insure themselves for the situation that occurs more often than not, that the accident's somebody else's fault.
Right.
And they don't have enough insurance to cover themselves. Many years ago, I had a very sad and tragic case that came into our office. I'll never forget her. She was the subject of a gang event. There are a number of gangs around the United States that, in terms of an initiation, require the initiating gang member to do something crazy with an automobile. And in San Francisco, where she was living at the time,
whoa!
One of the initiation events that had to occur was you had to drive your car at 50 miles an hour or greater through a red light in a busy intersection and avoid hitting anyone, or try to avoid hitting anyone. And this poor woman got hit at about 75 miles an hour by a gang member who was trying to be initiated into a gang. Ended up with massive brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries.
Can't even believe she lived.
She did live, and when she came in, she was a relatively wealthy person. She had insured herself very well for situations where she caused an accident, but for whatever reason, she had a very minimal limit to cover herself for when someone else was at fault. And it was so sad to have her sitting in my office and turn to her and say, well, the gang member has no insurance, and you've only protected yourself with $15,000 of insurance for this injury that had millions of dollars of medical bills. And so I tell people, you should insure yourself with uninsured and underinsured up to the limit of your liability, and that limit of liability should be as much as you can afford to have. Uninsured and underinsured coverages, to add them to your insurance, are very inexpensive. They will make up a very small percentage of the total bill.
I'm going home and checking my statement.
Yeah.
I hope everybody does that. So, I mean, what would be the number that you would be looking for? I mean, obviously, You're not going to get $10 million worth of coverage, but you're looking for $500,000, $1 million. What is a good number?
Well, it depends on who and where you are in life. So if you're starting out as a young person and you're working and you're making a relatively reasonable salary, I would say you'd want to have yourself protected at least, if you can afford it, to $100,000. And the way they're written is it's $100,000, $300,000. They start at $15,000. That's the state mandatory minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a $15,000 per accident, typically $30,000 per total accident. So, for example, if you injured 3 people in an accident, the most that your insurance company would pay out would be that second number, 1530. The 30 would be the most. They write 25,000, 50,000, 50,000, 100, 100, 300, 250,000, 500,000, and the sky's the limit. You can insure yourself up to what you want. But I would say if you should have at least $100,000 of liability coverage. Hopefully, if you can afford that, you should do that, and make sure that uninsured and underinsured is also at that same limit. Of course, you can add on an umbrella coverage, which, again, not expensive.
Yeah, I just did that myself.
Yes, so people should look into it. The other thing that people don't do, and it's astounding to me when I have clients come into my office because they complain, as most people do, about bills they receive, and they don't rewrite their insurance. I bet most of your listeners have no idea that every year they should be calling a broker and having that broker check with many different companies for rates. For example, we did that. We do it every year. 2 years ago, we saved almost I think it was a little over $2,000 a year for auto, home, umbrella, everything together. And my coverages were better coverage. I had more coverage for less money.
You did that last year.
It was either last year or the year before.
And what happened the next year after that? Did they take an increase?
The rate stayed about the same, so we didn't
okay.
rewrite it, and I'm very happy with my carrier. Probably should not put out an endorsement for them, but they're a great company. And but I find in talking to people, people go 10, 15, 20 years, they never call their insurance carrier to find out if they can get better rates. And they are going to rewrite you at a lower rate almost for sure. So great piece of advice for your listeners, Bob.
Sure.
Call your insurance agent, ask them to rewrite you, call a few others.
We should have some insurance companies kind of underwrite this show. You know, we could have Nationwide or Gecko, you know.
Somebody. Find some animal.
For sure. No, you're giving some great advice, and I think so many of us don't really plan or think about, you know, this ever happening, and accidents happen every single day.
They do, and I heard a statistic, and I cannot tell you that it's 100% accurate, but I bet it's close, and that is that about 40% of residents in Arizona have the minimum state limit of $15,000 of coverage. Another 40% don't have any insurance.
Wow.
So that uninsured, underinsured coverage is incredibly important to have in your insurance portfolio. You'd be doing yourself a massive disservice to not have it.
You know, one of the things I do want to talk to you about, and certainly want to do it in the second half here, is a startling statistic that I just saw in the Business Journal a couple weeks ago, and that is, you ready for this? The number of deaths due to avoidable medical errors, according to a report from Washington, D.C. How many deaths do you think in the state of Arizona, just Arizona alone, due to avoidable medical errors, malpractice?
I'm going to say probably over 3,000.
Wow. 3,123. It's halftime here at Health Futures. Stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. You've been listening, and we'll be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
California and New Mexico are suing to stop construction of more border wall on the grounds it could lead to unexpected environmental consequences. Correspondent Jim Roop with more.
The document says that with the federal government making it impossible for the state's ability to enforce environmental laws will cause irreparable harm to the environments of both states. The lawsuit's asking a judge to permanently block the construction of the border wall.
Meanwhile, resistance is growing in Mexican President López Obrador's ruling coalition to the immigration deal struck last week with President Trump to avert punitive trade tariffs. As the implications of that accord become more clear, Mexico's top immigration official today resigned. A federal appeals court in Washington backs an order barring the administration from enforcing a policy preventing immigrant teens in government custody from being able to have access to abortions. On Wall Street, the Dow is up about 40 points. I'm Mike Moss.
Lowe's knows you'll do it right to make this Father's Day Dad's best one yet. We do it right, too, with savings and the tools he needs to tackle his to-do list. Like your choice of a Cobalt 2-piece 24-volt cordless outdoor power equipment combo kit with leaf blower and string trimmer for $129. Or for $129, get a Cobalt 2-tool 24-volt max brushless combo kit including a drill and impact driver. And save big on a Cobalt 227-piece mechanics tool set now for just $99. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 6/19 U.S. only.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens. And they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
If you can get a signal on your smartphone, then you can listen live to Money Radio. Download our app for free and never miss a moment of the great advice.
Are you sick and tired of hearing, don't buy an annuity until you've spoken to the so-called experts? If so, call 800-957-5604, extension 200, to learn the concept of a principal-protected, low-cost, new generation annuity and the various options. Listen to Secured Financial Solutions every Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. on this station to prevent a derailed retirement and from purchasing the wrong annuity, especially the high-risk, high-fee variable annuity and complex proprietary index annuities. Secured Financial Solutions will help you understand the difference between true stated guarantees and non-guaranteed returns. Call 800-957-5604, extension 200, and visit dreamretire.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, and Registered Investment Advisor. VCM and Secured Financial Solutions, LLC, are independent of each other. Annuities are insurance products, backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the insuring insurance company. Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Last night's storms causing widespread damage.
Do you own or manage the summer emergency service? Can people find your business when they need to? If you're listening to this, so are your customers. We can have your custom message on the air today. Roofers, air conditioning, tree trimmers, pool repair, flood damage, and more. Get the word out now so your name is the one they recall when the next emergency strikes. Call the Money Radio sales hotline at 602-424-5030 or go to moneyradio1510.com and click on the Advertise with Us tab.
Are you purchasing a home or looking to refinance? Confused about mortgages or the process of getting a mortgage? You're in luck. Joe Capitano, Senior Vice President with Homeowners Financial Group, will bring his 27 years of experience specifically to coach and educate you. Listen every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for his extensive knowledge in terms you will understand. Welcome Joe and the JoeLoans.com Hour. Online at JoeLoans.com. That's JoeLoans.com.
At Walgreens, you can get expert diabetes advice 24/7. Find all major brands of testing supplies and download tools to help you stay on track. Talk to your Walgreens pharmacist today.
Miller with Your Money Now. Well, as trading gets ready to wrap up on Wall Street, stocks appear poised for a lackluster finish with the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P mostly hovering in negative territory for the majority of today's session. The NASDAQ continuing to perform the worst of all the three indexes. This comes as tech stocks have been under pressure for most of today after Broadcom lowered its full-year revenue guidance. Broadcom's president said the chip maker sees a broad-based slowdown in the demand environment due to geopolitical tensions. Those comments have led to renewed concerns about the impact of the U.S. and China trade dispute. In the commodity markets, gold prices were up over 1% in the early going. However, they pulled back most of those gains to finish up 0.1% to $1,344.50 an ounce. Gold was up early amid safe haven appeal, amid some underwhelming industrial Chinese output data, and some concern about a possible military conflict in the Middle East, with the Trump administration blaming Iran for an attack on 2 oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. And that is Your Money Now.
The clock is ticking, every day you put off buying life insurance can cost you big time. The older you get, the more you'll have to pay. And a sudden accident or unexpected illness could cause your rates to skyrocket or even make you uninsurable. Beat the clock. Call Select Quote now. No hassle, no obligation. In minutes, you'll have a choice of your best rates from up to 10 highly rated life insurance companies. Richard, 40 years old, takes meds to control his cholesterol. Still, Select Quote got him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. Under $1 a day. Don't risk your family's security another minute. Get your free quote now. Just call 800-569-2121. That's 800-569-2121. 800-569-2121. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are in our second half. And if you're just tuning in, I've got a good friend and an attorney. Everyone should have a good friend that's an attorney, right, Burt?
Everybody.
I got Burt Rosenblatt here in the house. He's with Eli, Bettini, Ullman, Rosenblatt, Noser. And if you missed the first two segments, you can catch them up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Go to the media button, drop down 3. You catch radio show, and you'll catch our first half. So in that first half, we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about your practice. We talked about you having been from L.A. and coming over here to the great state of Arizona, mainly because the people are so friendly. And then we talked about, World Elder Abuse Day, and it's really sad what's happening to a lot of our older adults. And, I talked about, if you see something, say something, and certainly saying something, say it to the local authorities, say it to Adult Protective Services, the Arizona Attorney General's office, but look for signs. And then we concluded by just giving, we talked about underinsured and uninsured insurance, and certainly you want to check your insurance. I'm doing that when I get home, Burt.
Everybody should do it once a year, Bob.
We should definitely be checking. And then lastly, we talked about, he gave a little tease about malpractice in hospitals, 3,128 deaths in the state of Arizona last year alone. And you told me the number's over 100,000 in our country.
It's unbelievable. And those are only the ones we know about.
Right.
Somebody once said that the problem of medical negligence is so pervasive in our society and yet so ignored. And someone gave an analogy and said, can you imagine if we had a jumbo jet every day falling out of the sky and 300 people were killed?
Every day.
Every day. How soon do you think it would be where we would either legislate around it or find a fix to that problem?
Well, we had it with Boeing. It wasn't every day, but we had 2 that went down.
It took 2.
It took 2, and they took that airplane off the market.
Well, statistically, Bob, it is, I believe, a little over 100,000 a year, which is the equivalent of a jumbo jet falling out of the sky every day.
That's just crazy.
It's unbelievable.
And I'm not here to cite what hospital it was, but I was listening to a podcast, and I did share with you where there were all these unusual deaths that were happening, and one of the doctors secretly recorded the board meetings, and the doctors even confessed they wouldn't have their families have surgery there. I mean, there's some issues that are going on out there, and I don't know how to prevent that. Obviously, you see the aftermath, and it is a complete train wreck.
And it's a difficult problem because there are laws that prevent lawyers and people who have legitimate claims from obtaining information about what are called peer review committee meetings. So every hospital typically has a peer review panel.
And by the way, that was the recording, was a peer review.
Right,
somebody recorded it.
Right. And they will have suspicious or unusual or difficult or obvious cases reviewed by other physicians and staff members to try to fix their problems. And the laws of the state of Arizona and many other states prohibit lawyers who are bringing legitimate claims from accessing that information. And I think in part it's in fairness to the hospitals. If you made that public, they probably wouldn't have those meetings. And if they didn't have those meetings, there would be even more deaths and more errors that were not corrected. So I do understand the reason for it. But as an attorney who does a fair amount of medical negligence claims, about more than half probably of what I do, it can be frustrating because you know that they know, but you can't get it from them. And it becomes an interesting fight sometimes.
See, look, you wanted to be a doctor. You probably are halfway to getting your degree.
You know, after probably more than 10,000 hours of work. Yes, it's amazing. I have friends who come up to me at parties, and I'll be standing around. I have an enormous number of friends who are physicians.
Sure.
And I'll be standing there in a group of 4 or 5 people, and someone will walk up to me and ask me about a specific doctor and whether they're okay or not. And my doctor friends invariably will look at them and say, "What are you asking him for? We're the doctors." And they'll turn to me and they say, "I want to know if you know him or her, because if you do, that might be a problem." And so I've gathered an awful lot of medical information over the years, and I feel like I'm about more than halfway there. So.
Well, definitely 10,000 hours, but really, so the statistics are startling.
Startling.
So how do we as consumers? What can we do? And I know I'm putting you on the spot. We don't have any script here whatsoever. What do we do to protect ourselves? And the numbers aren't being published, as you said, but there has to be some due diligence we can do.
There are several things, Bob. First of all, if you're about to have a procedure, you need something. Look, if you're in an accident, it's a rush to the hospital. You're not going to have a choice.
No,
you're simply not.
Wherever the ambulance takes you, you're going.
Well, but you can ask an ambulance to take you to a particular hospital, and if it's close enough or within their sphere of ability, they will do that. But if you're that hurt, you're not going to be in a position to do that. But if
and by the way, I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
But that's really the only reason to go to a hospital. I mean, I think too many people go to the hospitals and use them as their primary care physician.
They do.
Hospitals are a really bad place to go to.
Well, there's things you'll catch there, perhaps you didn't have when you walked in the front door.
Well, exactly. They have these urgent cares and stuff like that. You're better off going there versus going to a hospital. And depending if it's a life-threatening illness or issue.
Right. I think people need to be smart. They need to take some personal responsibility for themselves. So first thing you should do is you should get yourself a checkup every year. Most health insurance companies will pay for that or pay the majority of that.
Right.
And so being proactive about your health is very important. A lot of people don't want to know.
I love you giving that endorsement, so thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to know. In fact, I'm due to have some blood work done. My wife says to me, "You're going to get that blood work done?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm going to wait till after my vacation this summer because I don't want to know."
Me too.
I don't want to go on vacation and have that on my mind. But you do really need, all joking aside, you need to set aside once a year, go see your primary care doctor. And just a helpful tip, a lot of them will not do physicals, but maybe once a month or very sporadically. So call ahead and make sure you plan your physical. You could sometimes, 6-8 weeks ahead of time, get it on calendar. But go. So many problems are found that way. And in fact, Bob, I'll tell you just as an aside, I bet we've had a dozen cases over the years in my office where people have come in from car accident cases, had an MRI or a brain scan or something else, and they find a tumor or they find a cancer or they find something else that, but for that accident, they would have died. And it's astounding. But that is sort of a what's the word I'm searching for? It's the reason why you want to go in every year to be proactive, right? Because you will find things at stages that are curable and treatable that if you put your head in the sand, you won't.
Well, it's kind of like my good friend, and I think he's a friend of yours, and he's been a guest here several times, is Dr. Dan Moline.
Yes, I know Dr. Dan very well.
And he knows me very well, too, inside and out.
As he does me.
But you know what? He talks about that this is probably the most preventable cancer, and we're talking about colon cancer, and all you have to do is have a colonoscopy.
My mother got colon cancer in her 50s. I get colonoscopies. I have started getting them since I was 40, and I get them as recommended, and sometimes I will do them a year sooner than recommended. Our good friend Dr. Dan found something when I was about 42, found a couple what are known as polyps,
right?
And he explained to me that had I not been in to see him, that he would be at my funeral in about 5 years. And it really took my wife by surprise. And he explained to her, he said something that all your listeners should understand, that every cancer started from a polyp. Not every polyp will become cancer, but every cancer was a polyp. And so having routine colonoscopies will avoid colon cancer. It is the one cancer that no one should die from.
No one should.
No one should die from colon cancer.
And if you have family history like you do, you start at 40. And
I recommend that. I'm sure the medical societies would say 50 or they change their recommendations, but I would say 40.
They just recently changed them. Dan was here in March because it was Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, and he was talking about if you have it's now in the 30s, and he's recommending now for people to get started in the 40s.
I
especially with the
more.
diets, and he's seeing more and more polyps and more colorectal cancers.
It's horrible.
And he even said kids today, too. It's just crazy.
And I wonder if it's from the food they eat. There's so much packaged food now with so many, chemicals in them.
Well, genetically altered and everything like that.
But other ways that you can protect yourself, make sure you know about your doctor. Make sure you know about their office. And how do you do that? Well, obviously the internet is a very interesting tool. If you see one or two negative reviews on a business website, whether it's a doctor or a motel or whatever, you're going to have people who are unhappy.
Right.
But if most of the reviews are very good, with one or two or three bad ones, I factor those out. If most of the reviews are really good, that should give you some confidence. Look up online. You can see where your doctor went to medical school, where they did their residency and their internship and got their post-medical school training. Make sure it's facilities that seem like they are quality facilities. That's another way to ensure that hopefully your physician is competent or beyond competent, hopefully. Ask your friends. Find other people.
See, that's where I always rely on. There's nothing better than a personal referral. Somebody that may be a patient already.
Nothing better.
Can you believe that third segment's already winding down? I told you it goes by fast.
Well, but we've given some great information to your listeners, Bob, and that's what's important.
So what do you want to cover in the last segment?
Well, I think in the last segment we should talk about what do you do when you have a problem, because everybody would want to know that, and I think I can help.
Any problem?
Any legal problem.
Okay, any legal problem. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I got Burt Rosenblatt here in the studio. Stick around. We're down 3. We've got one more to go. We'll be right back.
What if I told you there's a wealth management firm that offers a 100% satisfaction guarantee? Think it doesn't exist? Think again.
Hi, I'm Mo Ansari, president of Compact Asset Management. When you start a new relationship with Compact, we'll create your customized investment portfolio and financial plan dedicated to help you reach your goals. Try us out for a year. If you're not happy for any reason, you'll get all of the management and maintenance fee that you paid refunded. This is our 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Dial pound 250 on your cell phone and use the keyword Talk to Mo to find out more. Again, from your cell phone, dial pound 250, keyword Talk to Mo. Satisfaction guarantee doesn't apply to fees and commissions charged by third parties for such things as insurance products or mutual fund redemptions. It also doesn't apply to any market losses which might occur in an account. For additional information regarding this guarantee, please see the disclosure brochure available at the time you enroll or upon request.
Compact Asset Management is a registered investment advisor. Funds custodian, Fidelity Institutional Wealth Services, member FINRA SIPC.
You're in pain, or at least you know something is off, but you just ignore it and hope it goes away. The hard part? Living with pain. The easy part? Making an appointment with us and finding relief.
Tired of being in pain? Tired of surgery after surgery or pill after pill? Now you can stop pain for good. ARP Wave, an innovative FDA-approved technology, delivers electrical waves to muscles, joints, ligaments, and tendons that promotes healing, speedy recovery from injury, surgery, and arthritis, eliminating chronic pain. ARP Wave is used by thousands of patients and athletes with a 95% success rate. This accelerated healing therapy is a permanent solution to your pain without drugs or surgery. Treatment is right here in Scottsdale. Eliminate pain and feel better after just one 30-minute treatment. Now get the first treatment for free. Go to ArizonaPainClinic.com. That's ArizonaPainClinic.com. Or call 602-524-9022. That's 602-524-9022.
Now at Lowe's, get a Craftsman 21-inch gas push mower now for just $199. Offer valid through June 19th. See store for details, U.S. only.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're on segment number 4. If you're just tuning in, I got Burt Rosenblatt here in the studio, good friend and attorney with Eli, Bettini, Ullman, Rosenblatt, and Ozer. And just stepped in the studio, Ron Cohen, the owner of Money Radio Studios. Welcome to the show, Ron. Cowbell Friday, baby. Come on,
yeah, we were just going to do some Blue Oyster Cult. Actually,
working for the weekend.
I spent the last 3 segments making faces in the window, thinking, I would disrupt the show, and it just didn't work. You guys are pros.
No disruption whatsoever. And we did, this isn't intended to be a plug for Dr. Dan Moline, but all of us know him intimately.
Right.
And,
too intimate.
One of the things that Burt was saying, prevention is really the way to go. What do they say? Prevention's an ounce of cure. I mean, you definitely should be getting colonoscopies if you are 50 years old or older. And Dan said 40 years.
He did, and it's, as I said, it's the one kind of cancer no one should ever die from.
You know what I think is amazing is how our conversation has evolved over 25 years.
Well, we used to talk sports. Now we talk about body parts and colonoscopies and problems we have. That's called getting older.
Well, last week Ron was on the show, and we were talking about Beamer, and we were talking about James and his gizmo.
James and Julie. Yeah, everyone was at Financialist. Thanks for those that came out. We had another great event, our 26th year. Bob, you were there.
I had at least a dozen people come by and say they listened to the show. And for me, that's just affirmation. We must be doing something right.
For a financial expo, we had about half a dozen clients there, exhibitors that were in the health field. And they were just jammed with people because it's one thing about making money, but as we all realize and as we're all getting older, if you don't have your health, you can't spend your wealth, or you spend your wealth on your health.
Well, look at Steve Jobs. He got pancreatic cancer and had all the money in the world. Nothing he could do. Money didn't save him.
Well, and one of the things is, a lot of people were talking about cannabis and CBD, and we were talking about that last week. And, one of the things, and this is not meant to be a plug, but, we were just talking about a very high-profile attorney who left the field here locally and went and joined one of these dispensaries and grow companies.
I think it's coming to the point where we as a society recognize the health benefits of cannabis. I have had friends whose parents, obviously a lot older than us, who have become sick. I have watched them go from being emaciated and unable to eat and have an appetite to being prescribed appropriately cannabis and really enjoying the last time that they had here. They were eating. They were in better spirits. I mean, I've seen that firsthand with friends. Friends and family, and it's something I think that's been a long time coming.
There's a memory care unit that's not too far from here that has 50 to 60 residents, and every single one of them takes a little gummy every single day.
Yeah,
well, and I will tell you, they have not had a outburst or issue with any of these residents in probably close to 2 years.
So nobody tries to escape.
No one tries to escape. They're all happy, and one of the challenges we have with older adults, especially ones that have dementia and Alzheimer's, is keeping weight on. So they must be having the munchies too.
Well, I was just going to say I've been in that facility, and they have Pink Floyd running on a 24-hour loop,
and everybody's happy.
So I want to pick up where we left off in the third segment. So what happens when you have a problem? As a legal problem,
sure.
What do you do?
Sure. Well, there are certain things, at least in the injury field, that come up frequently, in people's lives. Car accidents. Certainly who did what wrong and who's at fault, and those are easier to sort out. And the more significant the injury, the more that you absolutely need to contact an attorney. There are so many legal loopholes and legal issues that need to be addressed, and even a simple car accident case, from lien rights to reimbursement obligations to having to pay back if you're on access, for example. So there are reasons why you want to get hold of an attorney, but the more difficult one is when you feel like either you or a loved one has been the subject of medical negligence. And again, as I said before, I do about half of my practice, maybe a little more, is focusing on catastrophic medical malpractice claims. And what I say to everyone is, if you think, and Bob, you kind of said at the beginning, if you think something is wrong, it probably is. If you see something, you should say something. Who do you say it to? Right. Well, a good way to get a claim evaluated is to call an attorney. For example, if you call our office, We'll meet with you for no cost if we believe that there may be a meritorious claim. There's no fee to meet with an attorney at our office. And in fact, we work on what's called a contingency fee, Bob, so that if we take your case, there's no attorney fee at all until we get you money. And if we don't get you money, there's no fee. So we are very good at having claims evaluated. We have a nurse who works with us who will do the first level of an evaluation, and then we have experts all over the country that we utilize to review cases and take those that have merit.
And shameless plug, how do they reach you?
Well, our office number is 602-230-2144. They can reach me there. We're online at www.eberlaw.com. And feel free to call our office, and we would be more than happy to speak with you and see if we can be of any help.
So as we wind down our show, I've only got a couple minutes. You've seen a lot of these cases. What is one of the most horrific things that you've come across?
Well, there's a case that I had that went 13 years.
13 years.
13 years. Actually, That case was in California. They have become friends of mine. Unfortunately, the gentleman who was the subject of a horrendous malpractice passed away about 2 years ago related to the injuries that were caused. That was a case, Bob, that I just felt so strongly about. A doctor had regrettably falsified medical records, had lied about being present in the ER when he wasn't, had lied about having reviewed an MRI and lied about the findings, spent 3 days trying to figure out, we believe, on what to do for this poor gentleman whose paralysis was creeping up from his ankles to his calves, to his thighs, to his waist, while this physician did absolutely nothing for him. Case went to trial in California in 2009. There was a mistrial caused by the defense. We then had to have a new trial. And then, by the way, the worst part was that mistrial was the last day of a month-long trial. So it was a lot of work that had to be redone.
Oh, wow.
We tried the case a second time, and we received what at the time in California was the 18th largest verdict in the state of California of any kind of case, including businesses that sue each other over huge contracts. $16.5 million verdict for this gentleman.
And unfortunately, he didn't see it. His family and his estate did.
Well, he was alive. He survived. He did get some, to see some of the money that he was awarded. About 5 years, I think he lived approximately from the time he was paid until he passed away.
Wow. Incredible.
Unbelievable. But we have seen so many crazy things, you'd have to do a days-long radio show.
But you know what? The thing is, you can't bring people back to what they had. But you can at least get some kind of satisfaction through that.
Well,
and hopefully get this guy never to practice again.
Sure.
I mean, a claim like that.
He's not practicing in the state of California anymore. So.
We have to wind up. So it's hard to believe. Show's over, Burt.
Unbelievable.
Ron,
I can't believe it took him so many years to come to the radio station.
Well, I hope I can come back again sometime. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know what? I think he could do a show every week, Ron. I think you need to talk to him about it because that case is probably one of about 100 he's got.
A star is born.
There
Never know.
Well, you've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. Burt Rosenblatt, can't thank you enough.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
And Ron Cohen, that Financial Fest was unbelievable.
We'll do it again.
Make sure you keep that on the calendar for next year. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll be back next Friday.
And 105.3 FM.
Last night's storms causing widespread damage.
Do you own or manage the summer emergency service? Can people find your business when they need to? If you're listening to this, so are your customers. We can have your custom message on the air today. Roofers, air conditioning, tree trimmers, pool repair, flood damage, and more. Get the word out now so your name is the one they recall when the next emergency strikes. Call the Money Radio sales hotline at 602-424-5030 or go to moneyradio1510.com and click on the Advertise with Us tab.
Money Radio 1510
and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa, Phoenix, and K287BX Mesa. No matter what the temperature, it's always cool to be in total charge of your finances. Money Radio will tell you how. Taking a look at the market, Dow down 7 points, 26,099. S&P down 3 at 2887, and NASDAQ down 39 points at 7,797.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin now.